The episode begins with Now asking how he had been so sure that he would win the game. Yuji replied that even if they played the game millions of times, he would still always become the winner. He explained that he had remained in the minority during every round, and that was no coincidence. After hearing Akiyama's so-called foolproof plan, Yuji thought it was brilliant. At that moment, he realized that if he created 2 more teams using the exact same strategy, then his victory would become guaranteed. Now pointed out that there were only 22 players, so she asked how Yuji had managed to create 3 teams of 8 members each. Yuji explained that forming 3 teams of 8 was easy because he himself was a member of all 3 teams. Every team followed the same strategy. Half the members would vote yes, and the other half would vote no, ensuring that one player from each team would survive. Since Yuji alone was part of all 3 teams, his vote was always counted differently, which caused his side to automatically become the minority every time. That was why his victory had been guaranteed from the beginning. He had been controlling the entire game like a puppet master. Now could not believe that Yuji had divided all the players into teams like that. Yuji admitted it had not been easy. After finishing his meeting with Now, he immediately went to the lobby, where 7 players were present. He shared the same plan with them and formed a second team. Then, during the game itself, he recruited the remaining players to create a third team. He reminded Now that he had intentionally told her everyone should keep talking with other players during the game so no one would suspect they were part of a team. In reality, he had said that only so he could secretly form more teams himself without raising suspicion. Yuji also revealed that he had repeatedly convinced Now that player number 15 was X so that her attention would stay focused on him the entire time. He had even instructed number 15 to vote the same way he did so that he would reach the final round and make everyone believe he was the real X. Takayoshi furiously shouted that Yuji had lied to all of them. Yuji explained that he had signed contracts with the other teams as well, but since all the signatures were fake, none of those contracts actually applied to him. Enraged, Takayoshi tried to attack him, but Yuji knocked him away with a punch and revealed that he held a black belt in karate, making any fight against him pointless. Yuji reminded them that the dealer had said the winner of Minority Rule would be the one who controlled time most effectively. He proudly revealed that he had not slept at all during the first night and had spent all 6 hours building his third team. The moment everyone heard about a foolproof plan, they walked right into his trap. He mocked them, saying that if they wanted to blame someone, they should blame themselves for being fools. Now began crying, believing they had lost. The dealer interrupted and said that if their discussion was over, he would open the final vote. Yuji confidently declared that Akiyama had voted no, meaning he himself would become the winner. The dealer finally opened Akiyama's vote, and to everyone's shock, it was a yes vote. The round immediately ended in a draw, meaning the voting had to be repeated. Yuji demanded to know why Akiyama had voted yes when they had already agreed that Yuji would vote yes and Akiyama would vote no. Laughing calmly, Akiyama revealed that he had already known Yuji was X and had also figured out his entire strategy. Yuji could not believe it and asked how that was possible when he had convinced everyone that number 15 was X. Akiyama explained that he never believed number 15 could be X. The real X had stolen Michiko's 100 million check and then entered the game building. If Michiko had not met Akiyama, she would have entered the building herself. That meant X needed to disguise himself so she would not recognize him inside. That was why Yuji disguised himself as a girl. Meanwhile, number 15 openly walked around the building wearing sunglasses, almost as if he wanted people to suspect him. That behavior was too obvious to be genuine. Yuji then asked how Akiyama had uncovered his strategy. Akiyama explained that he always knew his own foolproof plan was not truly foolproof. If another team came up with the same idea, then every round could end in a draw forever. Even so, he had pretended the plan was guaranteed so he could observe everyone's reactions. He noticed the players seemed far too calm, almost as if none of them feared losing. Even the players eliminated in the first round showed no signs of panic despite supposedly falling into 100 million debt. Instead of crying or despairing, they acted relaxed, as though they already knew victory would belong to their side. That was when Akiyama realized there had to be another team, or perhaps even a third one. His suspicions became certain when Now called him that morning and mentioned that player number 1 had also returned to the arena despite supposedly losing and carrying a 100 million debt. Akiyama questioned why someone burdened with such debt would willingly come back unless he feared his team's winner might run away with the money. Yuji still asked how Akiyama figured out he was X specifically. Akiyama explained that Yuji had made one fatal mistake when Now first mentioned X. Yuji immediately claimed that number 15 seemed suspicious because he acted too calm, as though he already possessed the 100 million check. Akiyama pointed out that Now had only said X stole 100 million from Michiko. She never mentioned that it was specifically a check. By bringing up the check himself, Yuji had unknowingly exposed himself as X. Yuji then warned him not to celebrate too early. Although Akiyama had interfered with his plan, the game was still ongoing, and any of the remaining 4 players could still win. The dealer announced that since the previous round ended in a draw, another vote would take place. This time, Akiyama was asked to provide the question. Akiyama declared that money was the most important thing in life. The dealer explained that players who agreed would vote yes, while the rest would vote no. Before anyone else acted, Akiyama immediately cast his own vote and openly showed everyone that he had voted no. Everyone was stunned because he still had 6 hours remaining to think. Akiyama calmly explained that he did not need extra time because victory was already his. Since everyone now knew he had voted no, the other 3 players would need to vote yes if they wanted to win. However, if all 3 voted yes, then Akiyama himself would become the winner. The only way to stop him would be to sacrifice themselves by voting no, fully knowing it would guarantee their own defeat. He then mocked them, saying none of them seemed like the type willing to sacrifice themselves for others. That meant his victory was already certain. The dealer officially started the 6-hour timer and now was sent outside until the results were announced. Takayoshi began panicking. Since one no vote had already been cast, he needed to vote yes in order to win. But if the other 2 players thought the same thing, then Akiyama would win instead. Meanwhile, Akiyama remained completely relaxed. Takayoshi realized that although their original teams had collapsed, he could still form a new alliance with just one other player. They only needed 1 yes vote and 1 no vote between them. If number 15 voted yes, the round would end in another draw. If he voted no, then their team would win. After thinking carefully, Takayoshi approached Yuji instead of number 15, even though Yuji had already betrayed him once. Yuji asked why he had not approached number 15. Takayoshi explained that even though Yuji's contract signatures were fake, his own signatures were real. That meant any prize money he won would legally need to be shared with the 7 members of his original team. Number 15 had signed the same type of contract, meaning he too would need to divide his money among his teammates. If Takayoshi and number 15 formed a team together, they would end up splitting the prize among 14 people, leaving everyone with only 75 million each, not even enough to repay their debts. That was why he had no choice except to team up with Yuji. Yuji admitted that a 2-person alliance could force another draw but would not guarantee victory because number 15 seemed likely to vote yes. At that moment, number 15 approached them and claimed he had a perfect plan that would guarantee victory. He proposed that all 3 of them form a team together so that one among them would definitely win. Takayoshi pointed out that doing so would require splitting the money among 15 people, making it impossible to repay everyone's debts. Number 15 then revealed that they would not split only 1 billion. Instead, they would divide the full 2 billion because he had no intention of leaving the game. He planned to continue into the next round of liar game. The other 2 were shocked and wondered if he had gone insane. Even Yuji secretly thought the second round was already terrifying enough, but he still admitted the idea sounded interesting. Number 15 then stated that he deserved the largest share. According to his calculations, he would repay the debts of his own teammates and Takayoshi's teammates, while also giving them an additional 43 million each. Out of the remaining money, he planned to keep 230 million for himself and give Yuji only 1.2 million. Yuji exploded in anger. He pointed out that everyone else would receive 43 million while number 15 kept 230 million for himself. Yet Yuji would receive almost nothing despite carrying a 100 million debt. Number 15 coldly reminded him that he already possessed Michiko's stolen 100 million check. Since Yuji had tried to deceive everyone, he deserved only 1 million and should be grateful even for that. Yuji refused to accept the deal because he wanted at least 43 million like the others. The argument between them kept growing while Akiyama quietly observed everything from a distance. Time slowly passed. Number 15 refused to increase Yuji's share by even a single yen, while Yuji greedily demanded more money. Eventually, with only 10 minutes remaining, Yuji suggested forcing another draw so they could gain another full day to negotiate. All 3 agreed to intentionally create another draw. However, Takayoshi still did not trust Yuji and feared he might betray them again to steal the victory for himself. Number 15 then proposed that he should submit all 3 votes personally to prevent betrayal. He asked Yuji and Takayoshi to hand over their yes ballots while he himself would cast a no vote, guaranteeing a draw. Number 15 then placed all 3 ballots into the box. Soon, the time for the results arrived, and now was called back inside. She noticed that Akiyama looked completely confident, almost as though he knew the other 3 had fallen perfectly into his trap. As tension filled the room, the dealer finally began counting the votes. And with that, the episode came to an end.